Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another episode of Mind Your Puckin' Business with your host, Jeffrey Huntsman.
Thank you, Dougie Sticks. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I am good. This is episode number 74 of Mind Your Puckin' Business, a Tenta y Cuatro on the Spanish dial. And we're coming to you, as always, from the beautiful studios of Undefeated Media here in Bergen County, New Jersey. And we are brought to you by the Bamboozle Project. More on sponsors in a moment. A little tease there for you.
Oh, yeah.
You can email the show at any time, mypbshow@gmail.com, your questions. We try to take as many of them as we can every week. And you can also, as it's become popular, you can send us DMs on Instagram to send in your questions. That has become increasingly popular. Nice. You can watch the show, follow along video feed on YouTube, or you can also listen to the audio on Spotify and iTunes, and you can also find it on Facebook.
You can also participate with us by putting a comment in the comment section or a question.
And then we don't have time to prep for the answer. Put us on the spot. On the spot. So, how are you? Everything good?
Everything's good. Hopefully we don't get rained on today, but everything's good.
Is it? I didn't even realize it was supposed to rain today.
Yeah, it's cloudy, 50%, 50-50.
We've gone back here in the Northeast to winter. Yesterday, on April 25th, you know my real job is not this. I'm outside a lot with my real job.
Yeah.
I had to wear a winter coat on April 25th yesterday because it was about 37 degrees when I dropped the kids to school yesterday.
The weather's bipolar right now.
It is. You don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So hopefully better days with the weather on the horizon. So some exciting news. We talk to you every week about the Bamboozle Project, and we encourage you to check them out. Always go on to their website as we give you the promo code MYPB every week to save 25% off. But we are excited and to welcome another sponsor to the program, and that is Allied Construction and Roofing. They are out of Lodi, New Jersey.
Yes.
So you can check them out. You'll hear us talk about them a lot in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
I believe they may be coming in studio maybe next week or the week after.
Yes, sir.
So we welcome Allied Construction and Roofing from Lodi, New Jersey to the Mind Your Puckin' Business family.
Yes, absolutely. I'm putting their website up right now.
Right. So if you are following on the video feed and you say, all right, I live in Bergen County where a lot of our listener base is from, and you need some sort of construction or roofing done, you can go right onto their website, which is now across your screen at alliedconstructionusa.com. And they are out of Lodi, which is very central because if you're in Lodi, if you know Bergen County, you're kind of in the middle of it all. You could go north to the northeast part of the county. You could come out here to Wyckoff where we shoot the show from. So they go everywhere. We welcome them to the MYPB family, and we're grateful for their sponsorship.
Absolutely. The whole Bergen County area.
Yes, they cover it all.
Absolutely.
So exciting as well, aside from the sponsor, the Ranger season has been going on now for 6 months, 6.5 months, and we are finally now getting to the end of the regular season. The Rangers, with 3 regular season games left, they'll be home against Carolina tonight, home against Montreal tomorrow, and then they will be home to close out the 2021-22 regular season on Friday night when they host the Washington Capitals, which means we are finally getting to the best time of the year and the most stressful time of the year, if you're a hockey fan.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the NHL playoffs, which is going to start next week. Now, the Rangers, here's what we know so far. They will have home ice in round 1. We do not know if they'll be the 1 or 2 seed in the Metro division. It's looking more likely they're going to be the 2 seed. If they are the 2 seed, they're going to either play Pittsburgh or Washington. And game 1 should be, it would look like Monday or Tuesday at Madison Square Garden.
Do these 3 games affect our seeding? Are we pretty much locked in?
They do. You'd have to win out to get the top seed. You'd have to win your next 3 games. And Carolina would have to lose tonight, which they would if the Rangers won because they're playing each other. But Carolina would also have to lose at home to the Devils on Thursday, which is probably not going to happen. I'm fine with them being the 2 seed. Again, I've taken some flack for this, and that's fine. It's just my opinion. I'd rather them go into the playoffs as the 2 rather than the 1. I think the matchup is better in the first round. That does not mean that the first round is a gimme, and I would bet the house that they're going to win the series because I'm not. I don't do that. I don't work like that. But I will say this. If you are the 2 seed and you play either Pittsburgh or Washington in round number 1, the expectation is you should win the series. I'm gonna put it out there.
So if we're the 2 seed, we play the Penguins.
Penguins or Washington, whoever finishes in the 3 between the two of them.
Gotcha.
It's more likely looking like it's Pittsburgh.
Okay. And if we become the 1 seed,
You would play Boston, which I don't really want.
you don't like that matchup?
I don't like that matchup.
All right.
I don't. So let me clarify. You said something that's important because I took flack for this the other day with a bunch of people. I don't like the Pittsburgh Washington matchup.
Mhm.
There's no matchup you like, right? Whoever you play in the playoffs is good.
Yeah.
If a team is in the playoffs, they can beat you, right?
True.
But I'd rather take my chances in the
Mhm.
first round, and I'm going to play this one round at a time,
Yeah.
at getting out of the first round versus Pittsburgh or Washington than Boston. The Rangers on Saturday played Boston up in Boston and lost 3-1. Now, they were without Andrew Kopp, they were without Philip Hedl, and they were without Capo Caco. And so I'm not going to read into that game a lot, but the Bruins are still, a highly talented team. Obviously, they have Pasternak, Marchand, Patrice Bergeron. On the defensive end, they've got McAvoy. Their question marks up there is goaltending. This guy Swayman, this young kid, playing in the playoffs. But they're coached well by Bruce Cassidy. I just wouldn't want. That would not be my choice. I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, I mean, either way, we're playing a black and yellow team.
Yes. Well, unless it's Washington, then you're playing Then you are playing a red team.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing with Washington, and because the NHL is so uptight with injuries, the other night the Capitals were home against the Maple Leafs on Sunday night, and Alex Ovechkin got hurt. So the first thing you think of is, wow, if Ovechkin's out for the playoffs, man, Washington is definitely the team you want to play. But then you sit there and you see what happened, and it's the fact that they're just very tight-lipped with the injury, upper body. That's all we're saying. It sounds like he'll be back for the playoffs. So look, whoever you play in the playoffs, and I said this last week, you get who you get, and you don't get upset.
Sure.
Whoever you get in the playoffs is going to be good. So that's the whole point of the playoffs. You're not playing the Seattle Kraken. You're not going to get Winnipeg in the first round. You got to play a good team.
Yes, sir.
Are you amped up for the?
I'm amped. I can't wait. These 3 games can't come back fast enough.
Yeah. So there is a lack of juice now. It's funny. Tonight, if you think about it, at the Garden where the Rangers play the Hurricanes, it kind of in some ways is a big game in the sense that, first place is still on the line. Tickets are cheap.
Really?
The mindset of Ranger fans in terms of tickets, let's go to next week in the playoffs.
And that's tonight?
The Carolina game, regular season game.
Gotcha.
They want to get past these next 3 games and just focus on the playoffs. And everyone's excited for it, as they should be. So we will see. So the Rangers, we talked about, had a bad showing over the weekend in Boston on Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to look that much into it again. As I said, they were without Andrew Kopp, Philip Hedl, and Capo Caco. So I'm not going to really get into that. I think it's fine. It's one game. But Andrew Kopp, and it needs to be talked about. We've talked about what a great deal it was at the deadline by Chris Drury. Last week on Thursday, we haven't been on since then at Long Island when they played at the Islanders. He had a hat trick in the first period. I think about that. Not just a hat trick. You had a hat trick in the first period.
Did he score again after that first period?
He did not. He finished with 3 games, and then
should pace himself.
And then he got hurt. Then he got hurt. So that's the issue there. But it is he will be back for the playoffs, as will Philip Hedl and Capo Caco. So Gerard Gallant, barring anything crazy in the next 3 games, let's hope, should really, for the most part, have his full lineup to choose from. I would hope he's going to put Ryan Reeves in the lineup. I think the other teams respect when Ryan Reeves is in the lineup. And if it is Pittsburgh they play, if you look at how chippy and physical the Pittsburgh games were, particularly the one at the Garden back 3 weeks ago, where Igor Shesterkin shut him out and was waving goodbye to them as they skated off the ice. The physical component of Ryan Reeves is really important, and I hope that he is in the lineup. So next week when we're on, we will either have had game 1 the night before, or game 1 will be that night, depending if the Rangers are Monday or Tuesday. And we will cover the playoffs here extensively. Nice. We will also go around the league like we do in NHL playoffs here, and we will cover the other series. Obviously, we will have a bigger spotlight on the Rangers because that's what we do here. Absolutely. But we will cover all the other series. Now, with the other series, the only thing in the Eastern Conference, I was looking before we went live here, the only series that really you could bet on is going to happen, it really looks like the 2-3 matchup in the Atlantic Division is Toronto and Tampa. And that would be an awesome series for this reason. Toronto cannot get out of the first round. They cannot win a playoff series, right? There is such an enormous pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I would go as far to say that in the Eastern Conference, there may be more pressure on them than anyone. I don't really look at Florida and say they're the one seed, so they have a ton of pressure. It's Florida. Who's giving them pressure in South Florida right now? Probably no one. So Toronto's would be under all this pressure. Austin Matthews, with a crazy good season, would have to face up against the two-time defending champion Tampa Bay Lightning. That would be a really good series. That would be a very high-speed, entertaining. It would not be a defensive series. Is Jack Campbell good enough in the spotlight up there in Toronto? I'm not sure that he is. We don't know the answer. That would be an awesome series. So we are looking like the Eastern Conference with the 8 teams that are going to be in: Florida, Toronto, Tampa, Carolina, the Rangers, Pittsburgh, Boston, and Washington. There's 8 really good teams. I mean, every team that is in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference has 100 points at least, which is incredible. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, it's going to be entertaining playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So stay tuned. Starts next week. We're going to bring in, let's see if we can bring in our guest, and we will introduce him here. Let's see if we can get him.
You want him first?
Yeah. well, let's make sure we can get it.
All right, there you go.
Although the camera is off.
Camera's off, my guy.
The camera is off. This is Zack from, we had a guy on last week, and I love Instagram. We talked about can be a great source of information for sports news. This website in particular, and we can put this up on the screen, and that is NHL Rangers Post at Instagram. Post, plural, all one word, is a great site. I would encourage you, if you are a Ranger fan, or even if you're a hockey fan for that matter, and you use the Instagram social media platform, to check out that site. Let's see, Zach, do we have you here?
Looks like I can hear you guys.
Off.
All right, yeah, it looks like the camera's off.
Camera's off too.
Yeah. I got you guys. 1 second.
You got it. Take your time. So,
hey guys.
There he is. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, first off, the page is awesome. I don't know. I'm assuming it's you that runs it. It's excellent. Always full of info. The graphics are really good as well. So we encourage people. We have it on the video feed up on the screen. NHL Rangers Post, all plural and one word, on the Instagram platform. Let me ask you a couple questions here about the Rangers, because obviously you are an expert on this as well. Before we get in the playoffs, let's get in the regular season. Chris Kreider, I was critical of the contract 2 years ago. I hated it. However, the year that he had this year, I got to keep my mouth shut because he's obviously earned every penny of that contract. Do you think it's realistic next year for Chris Kreider, the expectation to have a similar season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough for any player to match that kind of season, especially for him. I think he's a player that you don't see a lot of players his age having these kind of seasons for the first time. You know, this is his first season getting to that caliber. I don't really think people who say he's just going to regress down to 25 goals, that's accurate. But I do think it's a tough standard to set for him to get back to 50%, because, you know, he is one of the veteran players. You know, I think it's something that I think Mika Zibanejad could do again. I think he can get back up there. So we have other guys on the team to count on for that sort of big, you know, goal mark. I don't think it's fair to say he's going to regress back down, but I don't think it's also fair to expect him to reach that 50 goal caliber. But he's been huge this season. I mean, it's something that I don't really think any of us expected, but he definitely stepped up to a role that is huge. And it shows that his contract right now, and like you said before, you didn't love it. I didn't love it either. But now it looks like a contract that is a steal of a contract, you know?
Yeah. And if you bring up a good point, if there is a middle ground here where he doesn't do 50 again, but he doesn't go back down to 25, you know, in fairness, I think the contract is still probably justified for what he got paid. If he could even get to 30 or 40 a year, I think that would be fine. So, look, I'm happy to eat crow on my thought on the Chris Kreider contract. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Igor Shesterkin, another player that has just had really a remarkable year. I mean, he's definitely the favorite, I would think, for the Vezina Trophy right now. What were you surprised, or have you been surprised by how good he's been?
Yeah, I mean, I think when coming out of Russia, again, with even Ilya Sorokin, I think both of them had a lot of, you know, hype surrounded. I don't think anyone really saw this coming. It kind of goes with Chris Kreider. I don't think anyone saw that coming either, but he's just dominated at every single part of his game. And I think there's even that 1 week where people were a little scared, like, oh, you know, is he regressing? Is he too tired? And then he just came back the next week and was even better. So I really, I didn't expect it. I'm happy with it. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's something that I think he's a lock for the Vezina. If you're going to ask me, I wouldn't even say favorite. I would say lock. I think
Yeah, I would
honestly,
agree.
no one's really done this. I think as far as the Hart Trophy, it's tough because you got a lot of really good players in this league, like Austin Matthews and Huberdeau. But I think that if you want to look even at that, even at Hart Trophy MVP, he is our most valuable player, and I think he is a league's most valuable player. And I'm going to bring this up before we continue. If you want to put him in the Hart Trophy conversation, there are people in the NHL, other fans of other teams, who said the Rangers are only good because of Shesterkin. If you want to make that argument, then you got to put him in the Hart Trophy conversation. That makes you
Absolutely.
the most valuable player.
Yep.
He's just been so dominant every single part of his game. He's putting up numbers we've never seen by a goaltender in the NHL in years. You know,
Yeah, we had a guest on last week, and he brought up a really good point with the playoffs with Shesterkin. It was that, if you're the whoever the Rangers do play, and we'll get into that in a minute in round one, you've got to beat Shesterkin 4 out of 7 times. That's
yeah,
not easy to do.
no,
I
yeah,
mean, it's really not. When you look at it from that point of view, that's where you realize the Rangers really can win any series. I mean, look, they have their flaws, they have their weaknesses. I get it, but you've got to beat Shesterkin 4 or 7 times. And the year that he's had, that is not easy. Shouldn't well, let's hope it's not easy for someone to do. The deadline moves by Chris Drury. Obviously, the big one, Andrew Kopp, as well as for Toronto from Florida. Justin Braun came from Philadelphia, which I think is more for a playoff type guy, gritty kind of sixth defenseman, whatnot. How surprised are you with how good of a fit Andrew Kopp and Frank Toronto have been here?
I the last two questions we talked about, I think it had a lot of surprise in how good Kreider and Shesterkin are doing. But as far as these moves and how good Kopp and Vetrano are doing, I'm honestly not that surprised. I think that with Kopp being put at that role with Panarin, I think that's when my expectations went higher. When you're playing with a player that's has high caliber as Panarin, you gotta show that you belong here. And I think it's also the fact that Kopp, um, contract year, the Toronto contract year, I believe. I mean, so those two players are trying to prove something here. They've joined
Yeah, that's
a contender in New York City. I mean, it's a team they probably both really want to be a part of for the long term, and they want to get big contracts this summer. I am pleasantly, very happy and just Kopp has been obviously huge. He Kopp and Vetrano solved that issue, the scoring depth issue, like completely. That is an issue that we saw. It was exposed a lot during the regular season. I think Drury did a perfect job getting not a superstar, not a Ricard Raquel who has nice hands and can get you a cool goal, but a depth forward. What's Adrikop and Vetrano. I want to say I'm surprised, but I am very happy with how they've done. I think it's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and also you have to give Drury credit on the other side of that too, in that he didn't have to give up a lot. Not only did he bring in guys that were a good fit, he just didn't have to give up a lot to get him either. Which and I am big on Chris Drury. I think he's going to be a really good GM in the league, so I'm happy he's here. All right, let's talk about maybe not so positive things with the team this season. Capo Caco injured a decent amount. Again, he came here 3 years ago as the next billing of Moses. With the huge draft in 2019, Rangers get a little lucky with the lotto ball up there in Montreal that night. What do you think the long term future, or what's the word? I'm trying to think of the word. What do you think is fair to expect from Capo Caco going forward?
That's a good word to use, fair, because I don't think a lot of Ranger fans have treated him that way. Um, you got to remember this kid's age. It is tough with the injuries. I mean, you come back from a very long-term injury that nobody wants, and then you get injured again. And then right now it doesn't look too severe, but we never know what Gerard Gallant knows and what we are able to know about that. But I think for him, we see it in spurts. I think right now is the time, especially on a playoff run. There's a lot of pressure on him, but it also is the time for him to kind of show what he can do. And we all know what he can do. We've seen it in spurts. We see Lafreniere finally coming out of his shell. I really think that just to hold off on the big expectations for now. He's still very young. He has not settled into an 82-game season at all in his career. He hasn't been in the league very long, so it's hard to do that, especially with COVID and all the injuries he's had. So I think he could have a big role in the playoffs. But then again, if he isn't that big contributing forward, I wouldn't be too concerned yet. I think next season is when you start to be like, all right, where is his level? Where is he gonna
Is
fit
he
on this?
progressing? Yep. And you gotta see some forward progression with him next year. I completely agree with you on that. Another name. So we'll give Kako a pass. You're right. He's been in the league 3 years, COVID, all that stuff. But here's a player who's been here 5 years, first round draft pick. I'm not huge on the guy, but I can find some people that are, and that's Filipino. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the biggest Filipino fan. Not a hater by any means, but I have lost faith that we're ever going to see him develop into the 21st pick overall in the draft, which he was. Do you think Filipino down the road can become an offensive force in the league, or is this what we're going to get?
I think he's going to get better. I don't think he's going to pan out to be a 21st overall pick, however you want to constitute that title. But I'm not. I am kind of a big Heedle guy. I really do think that he has the skill there. I think he's a guy who's battled with injuries also. You saw him last year with the big injury, and he's injured again this year at the end of the year. But I think a big addition of Kopp and Vetrano, I know they're playing on the top 6 right now, but if they were to ever get a role in the bottom 6, I think that gives Heedle finally wingers that can make him burst into a solid forward in this league. I think he finally has the opportunity to play with wingers who will help him get to that position. I see it. We all see his skill. It hasn't been consistent at all. It's been the opposite of consistent. But we've seen his skill. We've seen his quickness. We've seen his hands. And I think now that he has, wingers that are suitable, I think we might actually get something out of him. That's more than what we've been getting. I don't think he's going to be what we thought per se, but I don't want to give up on him. I don't want to, and I don't think I will.
It's a fair point, Zach, what you said in that, his long, he just hasn't really played with scoring wingers. It's not like he's playing with Zibanejad or Kreider or, guys like that, or Panarin for that matter. Off season, one question before we get to the playoffs. Ryan Strome, I would have told you 2 months ago, it was very important to re-sign Ryan Strome. I've kind of gone back a little bit. I still think it would be good to re-sign him, but I don't look at it as much of a necessity as I would have 2 months ago. How important is it for Chris Drury in your mind to re-sign Ryan Strome?
I really don't think. I'm not a big Strome fan. I'm not a Strome hater like you said about Heedle. I'm not like get rid of him at all costs. But I think that you have a guy like Kopp who can fix that, who can slide into that second line center role. I'm not a big fan of that though, because I feel like then you have some iffy, you have an iffy spot at right wing. Who you're going to use? Is Kako going to be able to do that? So I do like that Panarin Strome Kopp line. As far as re-signing him, I don't think it's the end of the world if we don't.
Right.
The problem is really just comes down to money. You have guys like Kako, like Miller, those young guys who have to get paid soon. And if Strome is asking for at most of $6 million a season, that just might not be feasible. I'd like to, if I were to choose, I would like to keep Strome around. Maybe you go out and find another free agent center, but those also might cost money. I've heard people talk about, this is a long stretch, but you have guys like Mark Scheifele who might have a change of scenery, who's a center and who will definitely fit in that position. Even guys like JT Miller. But I think right now, focus on signing him. If the money gets to be an issue, then you start to look at other options. I don't think it's a top priority, but I definitely think it's a priority.
Yeah, I think Strome, it's going to come down to money in the sense that he's going to get offers elsewhere that have more money than probably what he gets here, because the Rangers need to pay other people. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Strome. I think he'll get an offer here, but I think he's going to get more money elsewhere. He's going to have to decide, am I taking the money to go play in a market maybe like Dallas that I've heard mentioned, but it's not Broadway. It's not Madison Square Garden. So he's going to have a tough decision there to make. But I agree with you. I don't think it's as much it's a necessity. I think they can move on from him if they had to. All right, we've been polling people the last couple of weeks here. We did a big poll on our Instagram page. We had so many people respond to it, and it was an overwhelming answer. And it is this question. If the Rangers got eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, is the year still a success? What do you think?
I think people are going to be disappointed because of the season they had, but they have to remember one thing is you don't often see a team miss the playoffs last year and then make the playoffs in the way that they did. They're not just a playoff team. They're top of their division. They're top of the league. They have had a season that has been compared to 2 seasons, 94 and 2015. That doesn't happen. It also doesn't happen after you miss the playoffs. So that has kind of put this narrative, I don't want to say false narrative, but it's put a narrative that this team hasn't been approved. They've never done this before as a team. They've never gone in the playoffs as a team. If you want to talk about the play-in round, half the players weren't even on the team, and that was a sweep. It's not a team that has experience. It's not a team that has done this before in any way in this level. So if they were to be out in the first round, that is disappointing. Obviously, it would be even if you were a low-seeded team. But you got to remember that it's a young team still. It's something that is new to everybody. I do think they do have a little bit more pressure than just making it as a wild card team. Obviously, they're second place, possibly first place in the division. They've had success against Pittsburgh. They definitely could outmatch Washington if that's a possibility. So I do think that there will be a significant amount of disappointment. It's not a disappointing season, though.
I completely agree with you. If they got out in the first round, people will be annoyed, and that's fair in the moment to be. We all will be annoyed, right? Because we're all excited for playoff hockey. But when you look at this team, the term that I always use here is window of opportunity, and the window probably for the next 5 or 7 years should be going up every year. They've made so much progress to open the window this year that the expectation would be high next year. So I think if they go out in the first round, yeah, people will be disappointed, but you'd have to look at the 2021-2022 season as a good season. I mean, it was very good. It was a business success, especially with the style of Gerard Gallant too. And, obviously he's coming back. So they'll be back next year. All right, last question before we let you go. It's looking like most likely the Rangers will be the 2 seed. They'd have to win the next 3. And then Carolina would have to, they would lose tonight, obviously, because they play each other, but Carolina would also have to lose on Thursday night at home to the Devils. So for argument's sake, let's say the Rangers are the 2 seed, meaning that they are going to play either Pittsburgh or Washington. Not knowing the Ovechkin injury, although it sounds like he's okay, is there a team out of those 2 you think they match up better with?
As far as Pittsburgh and Washington?
Washington, yep.
You've looked at the way they played against Pittsburgh this year, and you've seen pretty much utter dominance. I mean, the only loss they were handed to was a 1-0 loss, which was anyone's game, really, on a power play goal.
Yep, a Saturday afternoon. It was a bad call, too, if I remember.
Yeah, it was a hooking call, and I think it was Ryan Lindgren that could be disputed and is called, I think, if you have that play happen 4 times, it's called once,
Yep.
So it's anyone's game at that point. But then you also have a team like Washington that it before, I think 2 months ago, I'm like, oh my God, I would take that over Pittsburgh any single day. But now you have Washington heating up a little bit, and you have Pittsburgh starter out for, we don't know. So really at this point, I'm actually leaning towards playing Pittsburgh. But again, you're in the playoffs, you're this high of a seeded team. You gotta be ready to play really anyone in that division. I really I'm a big believer in don't worry too much about who we're going to play. You get there, you play your game. Once you play your game, no one can beat you. Once you have Shesterkin playing his game, no one can beat him. It's like what you talked about before. I think it was said by Steve Valiquette. What team can beat Shesterkin 4 to 7 times? I don't think Pittsburgh or Washington are able to do that. So I really am leaning towards if I have to pick one, I'd say Pittsburgh just because of how Washington has been winning more recently. They've been getting hot. They might even catch Pittsburgh. It's a very good chance they will. And then with the injuries to Pittsburgh and just how well we played against them recently, not even in the beginning of the year, recently, I think I'd be more than happy to play Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and the Jari injury, which the Penguins kind of term it as, quote, week to week, makes you wonder if he'll be back. And if he is back, is he even healthy? And also Tristan Jari has not had success in the playoffs in this league. So you have a guy now who is somewhat injured. He's not 100%. He's had complete past playoff failures, and he's got to go play at MSG. So yeah, I would probably agree with you. Washington worries me because they still have Ovechkin and these guys, and look, we've played them in the playoffs so many times that I know what they can do. I could see their goalie Samsonov standing on his head again a game in MSG. I just I'd agree with you. I would probably rather Pittsburgh. However, look, in the NHL playoffs, upsets happen all the time. It's not a guarantee. We appreciate you joining us, Zach. Again, check out NHL Rangers Post. Great website on Instagram. If you are a Ranger fan, I am telling you, check it out. Give them a follow. You will be thankful that you did. Come back and see us again, Zach, all right?
Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. That is Zach from NHL Rangers Post.
Nice. Exciting stuff coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Nerve-wracking. Playoff hockey. I had this discussion with someone this morning, actually on text message before I came here. It's like if you're a fan of a team in playoff hockey and your team is in and you're watching, it is so incredibly nerve-wracking. Like you're sweating, you're losing weight. But if you like for the last 4 years here where the Rangers weren't in it and you still watch the playoffs, it's so exciting when it's not your team also. But when it's your team, it's such added pressure and anxiety. Oh,
you gotta enjoy it a little bit more. Less stress, more enjoyment.
I'm trying to decide, and you can't decide because the schedule's not out yet, whether to go to a game. I mean, I have season tickets, but it's hard to sit here and be like, okay, I'm going to go to game 2 or game 5 or whatever when you don't know when it is or the day and time. And so we'll see. So the NHL playoff schedule should be out, I would assume, late Friday night or early Saturday morning. I would expect game 1s to start on Monday. So you'll have, probably 4 game 1s on Monday and another 4 on Tuesday. So 50-50 where the Rangers
Exciting stuff.
You, my friend, are in for a treat.
I am.
Playoff hockey.
I am.
So shifting gears, let's go through the NFL draft, which is this weekend. Or actually not this weekend, it's Thursday. I was thinking, do you remember, I didn't know you at the time, but 2020, let's go back to Corona in its heyday, 2 years ago, which now seems like 30 years ago, right? So it's April of 2020. Nobody's leaving their house. Yeah. Right? You're stuck at home. Okay. I remember the NFL draft was on, and it was like completely remote. Roger Goodell was in his basement on Zoom, doing the picks. And people were so freaking excited because we hadn't had anything for like a month and a half.
It was like the first thing.
It was like the first event, right? Yeah. And it was a draft, which is exciting always. But like that year, it was like can't miss because there's nothing else to watch with sports. So it's interesting here in the New York area where we do the show from, because this year is the first year that both the Giants and the Jets have not one pick in the top 10, but 2. The Jets will pick at 4 and 10, and the Giants pick at number 5 and number 7. All right. When you think about it, and you hear people say that the New York area football scene is so bad, when you think that both teams have 2 picks in the top 10, not one team is bad enough. Yeah. Both teams. How bad New York football is right now.
Yeah. We need to pick it up a notch. I mean, it's going to be the year of the lineman. I feel
and the Jets, actually, looking at it here, have 2 picks in the top 6 picks in the second round. So the Jets pick at 4, 10, 35, and 38. The Giants pick at 5, 7, and 36. That is, it's remarkable. Yeah. Now, so go ahead.
Who you like? All right, both teams. I mean, we've talked about this. Like everyone thinks a quarterback is going to solve all your problems. I don't think so. But based on their play the last few seasons, do you think Danny Dimes and Zack Wilson are safe?
Zach Wilson is safe. He's had 1 year here, so the Jets won't draft a quarterback. If you want to move on from Daniel Jones as the Giants, which I've said many times here they should, I'm not sure this is the place to do it because I don't think it's that good of a QB draft. Yeah. And it's certainly not a draft where if you're the Giants, there's a pick at 5 and 7, kind of a can't miss quarterback. Right now, most mock drafts that I've seen have the Jets taking a defensive end out of Oregon at 4. And then they were taking a wide receiver, the guy, Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. It's hard as a fan, and I'm not saying that you team shouldn't do what they're going to do, but you don't really get excited. Like, it's not a lot of pizzazz when your team is going to draft like a defensive end. But the Jets and the Giants have so many holes that
Yeah.
They should. The Giants, I have seen taking a offensive tackle at 5 and also a quarterback. The guy, and I don't know why it's his middle name, Ahmad Gardner out of Cincinnati, but his middle name is Sauce.
All right.
Sauce. He goes by
Saucy.
Sauce. I don't know why. So here's what you know. Whatever the Giants and Jets do on Thursday night, it's not gonna be like drafting Saquon Barkley. It's not gonna be like drafting even Zach Wilson. Like, it's not gonna be a high profile, exciting pick, right? So we'll see.
Is there an exciting pick?
No, this draft doesn't really have that. It doesn't have an Odell Beckham. It doesn't have
Good work, kids.
It's not the most exciting draft I have seen.
Is there any player out there that excites you in the entire draft?
No, not really. No, I think the highest quarterback I've seen rated, I think
Doesn't
the
have to
first
be a quarterback. Just any.
Well,
is there a generational talent coming?
No.
There's no this isn't making or breaking any teams this year.
I don't think so. No.
Interesting.
But I do think that even though we don't think there's a generational player, it doesn't mean that there isn't.
Tom Brady was 7th round pick.
Henrik Lundqvist on the Rangers was a 7th round pick.
There you go. Maybe we should focus on the 7th round.
That's where we go. That's where the real value is. Well, don't tune in until Saturday in the 7th round. You can miss the first 2 days. It certainly sounds like the Jaguars are taking with the first pick overall Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end out of Michigan, which, from what I've read, if you need a defensive end, which they need, he is supposedly like
he's a beast.
He's a beast. He's very good if that's the position.
Game changer.
Yeah. But the Jets again, it seems that they're going to take the guy, the end from Oregon.
So we have wasted picks this year.
And at 10, again, here's the other thing I've seen. I read somewhere today, Deebo Samuel wants out of San Francisco.
Yeah, what's
wide
up with
receiver?
that?
I don't know the story there. I don't know enough about it. But I saw like a rumor where the Jets would maybe trade the 10th pick to get him.
Ooh.
If you were going to get a wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
And you were going to use the 10 pick to draft the guy Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, you might as well use the pick on Deebo Samuel. He's young and he's good. Yeah. You're not taking a flyer on Garrett Wilson, right?
Yeah.
So that would be something to watch. And the Giants, like I said, I mean, they're not going to draft a super offensive guy that gets you really excited. So it sounds like they're definitely taking that guy Sauce Gardner and like an outside tackle or something.
Bringing in the sauce.
Saucy.
Interesting.
So tune in. That is Thursday night. I believe it is at 7:30, and coverage is on ESPN for the NFL draft. The Rangers will finish up the regular season, as we mentioned, 3 at home. Carolina tonight, Montreal tomorrow, Washington on Friday night. And then we will know exactly where they are playing in the playoffs. Best of 7, all rounds, remember, in the NHL.
Yes.
The NBA used to be best of 5 in the first round. So people would always think that the NHL was like that too. The NHL has always been best of 7.
Nice.
As far as I can remember.
More games. I'm excited. This is probably the first playoff series in the NHL that I'm like really excited.
Will you be like,
I'm going to burn my lanyard and I'm going to be all in.
Burn your Devils lanyard.
Yes.
The Devils, because we do try and talk about the other team as they finish up the regular season. Lindy Ruff cannot have a job there next year. I like Lindy Ruff. I thought he was a good coach in Buffalo, and I think he's really like one of the good guys in the game. But man, the Devils got to make some changes here.
Didn't they? I mean, with the hand that they were dealt, weren't they doing okay in some areas?
No, I mean,
they could have done better.
Well, Jack Hughes got hurt twice this year. That doesn't help them. The most important, position in hockey is goaltending, as the Rangers proved with Shesterkin. They have no goaltending. Their goaltender never really played, so they're playing guys you never really heard of. So I think if you're the Devils, you've got it. So you're going to make a change with Lindy Ruff. Now, I don't know what kind of coach you want to bring in. Like, do you want to do? Here's what you'd have to answer if you're Tom Fitzgerald, I think.
Okay.
Do you want somebody like David Quinn, who used to coach the Rangers, that was a college coach at Boston University? He coaches the U.S. development national team, a guy that is known for developing young talent, like a Jack Hughes, right? Or do you sit there and turn around and say to yourself, am I better off with like a veteran coach? But that didn't work with Lindy Ruff. I'm not sure.
I like option 1. I think I like option 1.
You like option 1?
Yeah.
Got it. You can hear me okay over there, right?
Yeah, you did. It did sound like you dropped a little bit, but I do hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, We will.
Maybe it's the allergies.
I tell you, Claritin over here. I'm Claritin up today.
Yeah.
24-hour Claritin, man.
Claritin free.
No, I'm Claritin juiced up. So, yep, we will see with the Rangers. We appreciate you checking in today with us. You feel free next week to send in your questions regarding the playoffs. We will take you there. We appreciate the Bamboozle Project, as always. And again, we welcome to the MYPB sponsorship family, Allied Construction and Roofing out of Lodi, New Jersey. Their website, again, is across the screen, alliedconstructionusa.com. We encourage you to check them out. They will be in here in studio in the coming weeks to tell you a little bit more about them. And that's a wrap. Was that good for you, sir?
Great stuff. Absolutely, yeah. And we have a lot to talk about next week, so don't forget to tune in.
We do. Playoff time is finally upon us. Thanks for checking in, everybody. Have a great week.